The Joe Rogan Experience.
Some of my favorite Bionicles ever released were actually some of the smaller guys, like the Mctoran. Just the other day, I was researching some of the earlier Bionicle sets from 2002, and I came across the Bohrok Va. I completely forgot these guys existed. Can you tell me what purpose the Bohrok Va served in the Bionicle saga?
Great question, Joseph. The Bohrok Va essentially served as assistants to the Bohrok, as well as the Bohrok Kal. Their main objective was to aid the Bohrok with three tasks. They would scout areas, they were couriers of information, and they would also give extra krana to the Bohrok if they had lost one of their own. They could store an extra krana on their back and could launch them at the Bohrok in the circumstance that they suddenly needed a replacement.
Okay, that's fascinating. I guess that explains their functionality. I noticed that that their play feature is that if you press down hard on their right arm, the krana would come flying out of their backpacks. It's not the coolest functionality I've ever seen on a Bionicle, but it was still hella unique, and I will give them credit on that note.
Although it wasn't the most exciting feature, their role was crucial in the operation of the Bohrok. If one of the Bohrok became disabled as a result of being without their krana, the Bohrok Va would come bring them a new one and basically resurrect the Bohrok. One thing to note is that the Bohrok Va were completely robotic, and they did not need their own krana to function. Unlike the Bohrok and Bohrok Kal, they were also programmed to be mindless. They simply just followed instructions. That behavior is completely the opposite of that of a Sigma male.
Okay, I think I'm starting to understand how they operated. They were like the little helper dudes for their older brothers. It's kind of cool how these guys were related to the Bohrok.
Yes, they were the smallest beings among the Bohrok family, which comprised of the Barag queens at the top of the chain, and then the Bohrok and Bohrok Kal, and lastly, the Bohrok Va at the bottom. The Bohrok Va essentially just executed grunt work for their higher-ups.
So when in the story did the Bohrok Va come into play?
Well, when the Bohrok swarms were initially awakened by Makuta, the Bohrok Va were also activated. It was their duty to assist the Bohrok in various tasks. For example, there was an instance when a group of Parak Va accompanied a swarm of Parak during an invasion of the village of Gakoro.
What did they do? What kind of havoc did they rain on the villagers of Gakoro?
Excellent pronunciation of Gakoro. I like how you rolled the R. You clearly see the Spanish influence in that word. So, to answer your question, this is what they did. They swapped out the Parak's Krana Za with the Krana Vu. Does that make sense? Are you with me, bro?
Oh, you mean those rubber masks, the Krana? So they each had their own powers and abilities?
Yes, that's correct. At the time, the Parak had the Krana Za installed, which gave them the ability to form their own strategies and led them on their mission. The Parak Va then gave the Parak the Krana Vu, which was the Krana that granted them the ability to fly short distances.
Holy shit. Man, that's insane. The power of flight. Man, I used to have dreams sometimes where I would levitate and like fly around simply by just crossing my legs in like a meditative stance. That sounds like they were totally overpowered.
Oh yeah, they were insanely powerful with the Bohrok Va by their side. Their ability to work together as a unit made the Bohrok an extremely powerful opponent to the Toa, as well as the Mctoran who lived in the villages. Another part of the story is that the Mctoran actually got the Bohrok Va to help rebuild their villages after they were destroyed, as the Mctoran believed the Bohrok Va could be reprogrammed to follow their commands. Little did they know that the Bohrok Va were actually just helping as a means of scouting for information, which they then brought back to their larger Bohrok counterparts.
Wow, those were some clever and evil little fuckers. It was like an inside job. Speaking of the Mctoran, I noticed that the Bohrok Va used the same feet pieces as the McDonald's Bionicles. They were kind of like a mix of the Mctoran, with bodies and tools like the Turaga, and also the heads and krana of the Bohrok. They were like a combination of like three of my favorite kinds of Bionicle. These guys were criminally underrated. I thought their piece usage was most excellent. May the Lord praise these little motherfuckers.
Oh, hell yeah! Hosanna in the highest. Yeah. They had sick, mad, stupid designs, and they only retailed for just $3 at the time of their release. Also, in Japan only, they were also released with the kabaya candy. The sets were still identical in design. They just had slightly different packaging.
Man, Japan always gets the coolest stuff. I would literally eat that candy every day if I got some cool Lego sets to go with it, even if that shit's not keto. But I actually believe that if you eat candy with a Bionicle, the Bionicle's Kanoe mask will automatically grant you the power of ketosis. It's like a diet cheat. I also love the idea of Bionicles being bundled with other products like candy, McDonald's, Duracell batteries, or Nesquik. That was just an interesting concept. Also, did these guys have their own combination models?
Yes, they did. You could combine 3 Bohrok Va into 2 different types of Kaida beings. Although they look a bit bizarre, it was still quite admirable that LEGO designed these alternative models with the given parts. They're rad as Chad, if I do say so myself.
Dude, I loved how you could rebuild the old Bionicles into other beings. That was one of my favorite aspects of the Bionicle theme in general. I actually found like 2 of the Bohrok Va in some of my recent LEGO hauls, but they're incomplete. I think I'm going to go order the missing pieces on Bricklink and complete these little motherfuckers. I don't know what the current exchange rate is, but I think it should only cost about 12 Alpha Chad coins to purchase the missing pieces, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, guy! Complete them motherfuckers and fulfill their duty, bro!
I will, but just don't shit yourself, dude.